Hi, my name is John Eichler with OT on Campus, and I am here interviewing Michael McManman, who is the founder of a college internship program. And he's here to talk to us about um, how people should start their own businesses. So, Michael, I'm going to let you introduce yourself because you have such a long resume and so many things about yourself that I'd love it if you just talk to the audience, maybe people who don't know you, about just
Sure.
briefly give them an overview of why you're doing this talk.
Well, let me just say, first of all, that I was diagnosed about 17, 18 years ago by my staff, already operating a program for learning disabled college kids, sort of. And so it transmuted everything. When I started writing the curriculum, I started applying it to myself and then formulated really a program that works with high functioning autism students all over the US. There's 5 campuses. But the finer qualities are that I was able, despite my Aspie social thinking problems and all the other things, to have a family with 6 children and 19 grandchildren. And, I could say I've been the most successful person in relationships for sure. But I'm a learner, I'm a lifetime learner, which a lot of us on the spectrum are. We are so curious that we don't stop. We keep learning more and more. So I'm learning in all those areas. So basically, we started CIP around 40 years ago, and I was 35, and I'm 75 now. And I've turned that over to my son, who, started very at the bottom of the rungs, working residential and doing website, and he's really very smart, and he's actually done a better job than I did. I think I'm more of a visionary, and he's more of a really good worker. So that's where we are right now, and we'll just continue.
So you developed the concept. You're the concept guy, the guy who thinks about things and thinks innovatively and digs into them and tries to understand them. And your son's the one who puts it into action.
Yeah, and it's actually a good segue to what we're going to talk about because you have to have the vision first and all of your values lined up before you go into a business. Otherwise, you're just going to be, well, it won't be as successful in my view. So having the vision about CIP and at one point I wanted to say when I was doing my curriculum back then, all these superstars like Stephen Shore and all of them were just sort of nobodies, and they were on my board, all of them. And I ran the curriculum by them, and I expected them to tear it up in pieces and everything. And they said, "No, that's fine." I was thinking, "Whoa," but it's pretty comprehensive, and I think that's what we need to approach and have. We have a menu for students where they can sort of pick and their parents what they need, like if they need more social thinking or more executive functioning or more academic help. So we just can do that within our format. But to get back to your question, so the vision has to come first. So when I was picturing CIP, I pictured how it would be, the visually, how the students would be, sort of like Temple Grandin, thinking in pictures, how it would look in the hallways with their art on the walls, how they would be acting with each other, what the classes would be like, how it would feel. And I'm very psyched by that because I wanted to create that. And so having the vision of, what kind of business would this be? This would be a business that treats employees really well and all those type of things. So what was the first question you had? And then I'll go from there.
Well, so I was just asking about the vision of the program. And I have
Yeah.
another sort of follow-up question there. So it sounds like you had a vision for the people who would be recipients of the program, things that you wish for the
Mhm.
people. Did the program change in the way that you envisioned it as it went along, or did you envision it this way the whole time?
No, it pretty much was true to the vision. It just expanded. And when you get 5 centers instead of one, you have to figure out mechanisms to still be very individualized in your services. And we did that. We figured, like I told you, we have a menu. So each director can then sit down with parents and students and sort of within that tuition, figure out which things they need more of. So it's really sort of cool. It took us, a while to create that. But the vision being first is not only the vision, but the values. So the values are, what kind of business do you want to have? How do you want employees to be treated? Do you put the parents and the students first, the employees, and then your own family, and then yourself last? Are you selfless that way? Can you sacrifice to get that kind of thing? Can you really follow through and give good customer service? Is that a value you start with? So for example, with my employees, I'll tell you how I started. They automatically got full medical coverage just the first day they started, and it's not done anywhere anymore. They got vacation. They didn't have to wait for 6 months or a year to get 2 weeks vacation. We had a month vacation as soon as they started. I always remembered their this is part of the Aspiness. I always remembered their anniversaries before they did, and always had a review and an increase settled. And then building staff morale. One of the things that we did is I would get Broadway tickets for a matinee. And after the students left for Christmas, we would just get in the vans, go down for the day, walk around Rockefeller Center, have lunch, then go to a matinee, and then have a really nice restaurant, like a French restaurant or something. And I paid for it all. And here's in retrospect, and I can tell you the truth about this, is that employees remember those things more than the money. And I still have employees who 25 years ago experienced that, who say it to me. So, and they stay when they feel part of a group that cares about each other. They stay. You have staff longevity, which allowed me to build 5 programs because I had staff who could operate without me at the first one. So that's part of it. But let's get back to the basics of how you might start that in the beginning.
Well,
Envisioning. Go on.
it sounds like your vision that's just one of your superpowers there. And you thought very differently about how to start this business, very differently from how a typical business person might approach the things that they think are important in a company, like making sure that your employees are happy in there, because if your employees are happy, then the people who you serve are going to be happy. And you're thinking about
Mhm.
it from so many standpoints, and that's pretty deep thinking. How old were you when you did that?
35, yeah. But I had operated group homes before that. I owned 3 group homes in Nevada for 10 years. And then I moved to Massachusetts. But yeah, the part about if your employees aren't happy, then, it's a happy wife, happy life type of thing. But also, how can you expect someone in the human services to be helping other people if their needs are not being met? This is in all of human services, not just in what we do. If you have nurses who they have to have 2 jobs to make a living, how are they going to focus on that patient the right way? So you have to have that kind of environment where people feel taken care of and that supported and nurtured, and that they know that, they are, that you're putting them there. And I always kept my salary really low because I was investing in the business, and that's another feature that you want to do when you're starting a business. My children all have successful businesses, and one of them just got a loan from the federal loan to make their sausage factory. They're into organic sausage and stuff, and
Oh, so a
and
real sausage factory.
oh yeah, and but this is the deal. They have an opportunity now because they worked hard. They got their organized their business with a good accountant, and were able to make a projection and do an application. So these things don't come by accident. For example, another area that we've never really had a problem with at CIP was lawsuits, because I was so proactive, and because of my autistic abilities, I paid attention to all that. Make sure the railing is fixed, make sure that the sidewalks are salted, make sure that so I was all over it. And ahead of time doing proactive teaching with my staff and everything. And that's reflected in your staff too. So you want to create a staff that, for example, if a staff came to a meeting and said, um, started complaining about a parent or a student, that's like not a good thing. They could do it, but they really immediately got sort of castigated in a nice way. I would say, I pay you to use your brain. I expect you to come here. You don't put down parents, first of all. You can describe the problem and the student, describe it and say, I'm stuck here. I don't know what to do. This is what I think we should do. And then here's another thing I think we could do if we don't do that. What do you think? And we'll say, yeah, you're right. Do number one, or no, two would probably be better. Or did you ever think of number three? But we expect you to use your brain. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You don't come here and complain about students and then sit back. It's like putting putting a little grenade in the room and walking out. You can't do that. It's sabotaging everything. So I was very clear about that, but we're getting off. I'm getting off the topic. So
No,
how?
I think all of this comes together. So, I'm thinking about your background and maybe the kinds of jobs or community service, or maybe
Yeah.
your parents, or all the things that came together before you even started doing this. Because
Yes.
we're talking to people who were trying to motivate to start their own businesses, and so why don't you talk a little bit about what you had before you got there? What motivated you to do this?
Okay, great. That's great. And don't ever demean any work or any service that you do.
It all
And
builds
here,
up, doesn't it?
exactly, these parents, if there are parents listening now or professionals, if you have a student who's struggling and think, well, God, I don't know if they'll ever be able to make a living, guess what? There's like 20 things you can do. You can take them to work with you and let them observe your accounting business and see if they like it, or maybe they can start some tasks. You can have them volunteer at animal shelter. You can have them do community service at your church. You can get them active out there so they're not being a couch potato, and get them involved in all kinds of, because you learn from all those things. So I'll give one example. In college, I was very much about community service in college and helping out. And I was like a little nerdy, little Aspie kid who got up early on Sunday mornings with a coat and tie and went and taught CCD at a church in a rural area with the priest on campus and things like that. But we had a group that called the Paradise Guild that would go to an orphanage on Saturday. We'd all get in the station wagon and all go out there. So, and I enjoyed it working with the kids. So let me just tell you what happened from the Paradise Guild alone. I met my wife in the back of the station wagon, right? That's how I met her.
Because we
So
meet people doing things that we enjoy doing, right?
yeah, it's common interest. And then I decided I didn't want to do anything with my English BA. I wanted to work with children. So those are fundamental changes that happened from just doing one community service. And so that's why it's so important. I know the medical schools now and the dental schools and the veterinarian schools are requiring people to volunteer or have some internships before they even get accepted. Because what happens is they get in there and they don't want to work with teeth or animals. They don't want to do all that stuff, but they didn't know it. They thought in their head they want to be a veterinarian, but they don't want to work with poop and all the other stuff and guts. And so they require it now. And even some of the medical schools are letting people with other degrees get into medical schools. In other words, not pre-med, because they're saying they have a better bedside manner than their doctors coming out of there, or little, scientists without any social skills like we can be and on the spectrum, right? And so it's very interesting. So community service introduces you to yourself. You learn about who you are, what you want to be. It's a good way of increasing your values, your empathy, and so all of our students do community service, whether they're an academic program or a employment program, and they all have to do an internship also. And we trade them out because you could learn something that you never, when you're young, you don't know. You might be really good at something you don't even know about, like you really love working with kids. Because you know what? When I realized it, when I was like 17, the neighbors hired me to go on vacation with them to Canada with their three little kids because I was so good with their kids. And I know how to put a tent up, I know how to cook. And so we would get there to these camps and then they would go off and have an evening out and I would take care of the kids and feed them and we'd play with them and everything. And yeah, it was sort of goofy for a 17-year-old boy, but it was really good when I went and got married and had kids. I had all the skills, right?
You knew how to do it. You really did. And somebody challenged you to do that. And there was a point where you had never done that before. And then you do it and you realize, I like that. Or maybe you decide you don't like that. And then you can move on from there. But at least you've tried,
Yeah.
at least you put it in front of yourself. And
And also the willingness to get dirty and to break your patterns and learn. That is the critical element in any business because what's the difference between a successful business and one that's not? Sometimes it's just grinding it out and not giving up. And you painting the apartments. In the beginning, I had to do all this stuff, clean the basements on, when everyone's off for Christmas break, or do something to make when I was really small in the beginning, I had to do a lot of functions. I was the admissions person and the director and the psychologist at one time. And so, but that slowly I was able to get people to take those roles and put myself just as a director, but it took 10 years, you know?
but that way you also knew a ton about your business. You knew everything about it from the ground up, everything from how to maintain the spaces to how to run the program to how to work with the people to how to direct the staff. I mean, that's very important too to really understand what's happening in
Right.
your organization.
I've done all the roles that I'm asking them to do pretty much.
And it sounds like your son went through the same thing as he was
Yes, exactly. He
working on
saw
it
it.
because it worked for you. You know that's important. Okay, so you talk about the law of abundance. So tell
Yeah.
me what that is and what's it about? How do you use that?
Okay. So I never looked at the checkbook very much at all. I would just work on doing the right things for the right reasons and letting it grow. And I was pretty savant with real estate. I would buy old buildings, renovate them for the students and stuff. And so I was willing to do the hard work and let it grow. But the law of abundance is that you don't attach yourself. You stay detached from like seeking resources. What you're doing is, and I've had parents, for example, a parent from Europe who just gave us $20,000 to renovate a basement into a rec room for the students, even though they got no tax benefit from it. So, and I've had another parent who I approached and I said, I want to buy this building for our new center and I don't have the resources. Would you lend me the money and I'll go to the bank and pay you back? And so he wrote a check right then and there for the building. And
Wow.
and I said, I'll give you back the interest in like 3 or 4 months. What I'll do is go to the bank, I'll buy the building for cash, go to the bank, get a loan, pay you back. And I also got a loan for renovations. So and he said to me, you need to do this for others when I'm going to do this for you and I want you to do it for others. And I have done that. So I think the law of abundance is putting your values correctly, being honest, talking to people. Like the parents of my programs always knew I'm going to come to them before the problem is really big. Like, let's say a student has a big problem with another student. Well, before that student calls that parent, I'm going to call that parent because you don't know what the student's going to say. Oh, he attacked me or whatever. So you say, this is what happened. This is what we're doing about it. And I'll get back to you. We're going to meet with the students. We're having an extra session together with the psychologist with both of them. We're implementing this new rule. So being proactive in your business is really important because, one bad Yelp review in a restaurant can really screw you up, right? And
Mhm.
so it's those kind of things. You have to really be proactive and go after it. And that's another really good feature of people on the spectrum. Like when we concentrate on something, we can really concentrate well. And so you have to be able to, create a structure so that And I do well with structure. So I created structure around me that supported me, to do it.
And you know the kind of structure that you need, and you created that structure and brought the people in. You also have that gift where you bring the right people in to support that structure. And that's
And there's problems. And here's the other thing. I always tell the directors, there's always going to be a broken toilet. There's always going to be a parent who's unhappy, and there's always going to be a student with a problem. Just accept that as part of your job. So when they come, a couple times staff will come say, this student needs to be out of the program. He's out of control. And I sit them down and I say, okay, tell me what they're doing. And they'll tell me, oh, he's blah, blah, blah. I said, so it's like 9 o'clock in the morning. So I say, did he eat breakfast? Did he take a shower? Does he have meds? Does he take his meds? Did you do any of those things? Okay, no, go do them and then come back. Guess what? He's all right. So it's sensory issues mostly. And when you get a shower or you eat, a lot of times those go away, right? If you're upset and you're shaky or you're anxious and you eat some good food, it can stop. And so hungry, angry, lonely, tired, right?
mm-hmm.
Let's look at where they really are. So we built that into our program. We built that morning executive functioning meeting where we say, okay, what did you have for breakfast? How are you feeling today? We talk about everything before we let them get their heads on straight before they go out the door.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, it's real important to do that with the staff too, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're trying to inspire people to start their own businesses. And I'm sure that you have a lot of insights from your own experience, but also from watching other people do this. What challenges do you think are pretty common for people who have autism who might be trying to start a business?
Well,
What might they
obviously,
need to
yeah,
overcome? Because
we're,
you can't just jump into a situation and thrive in it, and not deal with some of the things that you
oh,
know
sure. Well,
characteristics.
working in groups is really difficult
Oh yeah.
if because you have your own opinions and you think they're right. They're right. So that's why I've always had my own business. But I've worked for other groups too before that. But I learned, okay, I could do this better myself. And so working in groups, learning to work with groups, and creating some good guidelines, like I was talking about if you bring up a problem, you have two solutions to offer, because your brain is good. That's why I hired it. And
Mhm.
so,
You
these
hired
will
your
cut.
brain.
Yeah, I hired their brain. I'm paying them for it. Now use it. Don't dump it on me. What do you think the solution should be? So I'm getting off task again a little bit. So the important factors in starting your business are, it's not about money, because I've seen people start. I didn't have money when I started. My parents didn't give me any inheritance or anything. I just started. And then you get help along the way. If you're operating, people will help you, and they will help you if they see you're honestly trying to create something of really value. A lot of people, want to do that. GoFundMe, you could get on there if you want. But I think it's having the vision, having the values, and then having this willingness to learn. And the obstacles are going to be people obstacles mostly. And so, for example, when I started my business in Berkeley, I was renting a space in a high rise, office space on the bottom floor. Well, they have this thing called you pay a portion of the whole maintenance of the building, and
Right.
it's negotiable. And I never had encountered it before. So I had a friend in Florida who was a contractor. So I said, okay, poll the audience, right? Use, I'm not, just because I am so smart in one area, it doesn't mean I know everything. I got to get input. So I got input from 2 or 3 people that I didn't even know I could negotiate it to begin with. So I did, and I got it lessened, but I also didn't even understand what it was. So I went to and did it that way. So you have to be willing to go to other people for help and listen to them. You can't expect yourself to operate. I thought I could just answer everything myself. I never asked a question in class and school. I always hid out in the back so I didn't have to be called on to answer a question because I was too embarrassed if I would be wrong. That's not the right way to do it. I would have had straight A's, probably been valedictorian if I had done it the other way. It was that easy because I had passed everything anyway. But the point was, I just was afraid to be seen and to be, I didn't want to make a mistake. And you can't have that mentality because all mistakes are approximations to the right answer. And I use and this is what another rule I use. If Thomas Edison probably had 99 different types of metal he put together before he found tungsten that would work in lighting a light bulb, were those 99 trials failures or approximations to the right answer? The right answer, right? So I have to be willing to do that too. And I have had failures in my business. I started a ice cream store that was a historic failure. I lost a lot of money on that with the students. I was trying to have them have they didn't know anything about it and I shouldn't have done it. So staying in the things that you know too are important, or having enough help that you do it the right way. So you can get off base and recoup. Um, the most important thing is to recognize the mistake and admit it, and then take action. So we have a little thing called SODA, which is an acronym: stop, observe, deliberate, and then take action. So you want to stop, think about what's going on here. Am I right or wrong with this contractor? Is he correct about it costing more, or is he taking advantage of me? Figure it out. If you have to ask, observe, what's really going on. Deliberate, ask a friend, hey, how much did you pay for this, or whatever, use the donkey rule, ask 5 people if it's a donkey, and if they say no, they say it's a horse, then don't be a jackass and do what they say, right? That's the donkey rule. And then take action or delay action if it makes sense, because sometimes we want to solve the problem immediately and be impulsive, cause a bigger problem. Sometimes it goes away by itself. Sometimes the better answer comes after you sleep on it, or the next day, or after you talk to other people. And if it's not immediate, but also works the other way around. In real estate, jump on it if I had to jump on a few things and make decisions right away, or lose the opportunity that I knew was a really good opportunity. So you have to be able to do both. You have to be able to be decisive when you need to, and also take your time on decisions. But I think admitting that you don't know. So what happens to me a lot of times, I'll be at a conference and someone will say, oh, do you ever hear of Eisler's syndrome? And I say, no, what is it? And they say, because I say, well, I don't remember it. And if I just said, oh, yeah, faked it because I think I need to know that after 30 or 40 years being a psychologist, that would just be instant stupid, right? I mean, I'm just reinforcing my stupidity. So just say, yeah, I don't remember. What is it? Remind me. And then you learn. So that's another thing, is that pride and egotism sometimes on the spectrum keep us from learning what we need to learn, because we think we need to know everything. We don't.
So what I'm hearing here, because we need to start wrapping up,
Yep.
It's really your self-awareness that helped you to build this organization. It's you looking at things that you might have struggled with and saying, you know what? That didn't work. I need to do it this way. I need to work with groups differently. I need to be aware that I'm not great with groups, so I'm going to have to work really hard at that. And this is how I'm going to do it. And I hear all these little steps that you're talking about and how to do that, and these particular structures that you've developed to navigate things that make you flexible and take on some of the things that are very important in business, while
Exactly.
not losing the things that make you a perfect businessman for this particular area, a
Well,
visionary and a unique provider for services that, I dare say not just anybody could have created CIP. It's built from your experiences and your vision, and a lot of struggle and hard work that you had to do, and be flexible and maybe go against some of the things that were typical tendencies that you had.
Exactly. And, being aware of my own sensory problems that would get in the way at meetings or everything, making sure I ate, making sure I walk around the building before I go into them. These kind of things are really important because our meltdowns look like psychological problems for people. And so I'm sort of like really saying that it's an Aspie world right now because it's all set up the way we operate. You could be on your computer in your bed and have a whole business operating. Wouldn't be good for you, but you could do it. You could live in Mexico, a lot of them do now, and work in the US. So my son, we had a big office building. They rented it out. Everyone, his new personnel directors from Michigan or something, and they don't even live in the same state. So this is the opportunity that's created for us because we are good on there, right? I'm better on Zoom talking to people than I am in person. And I can see their faces, and especially if it's a big group, I can understand what's going on better than if I'm in a meeting. So it's really our world now. We get to create it, and all kinds of opportunities for businesses online that you can do. The guy that does I have a YouTube channel called Planet Michael, and it's got like 12 episodes. They go from my diagnosis to how do you grow pomegranates in a container on a roof. So it's
Mm-hmm.
all over the place. But this guy does it, who was recommended by US Autism to me from Tennessee. And he didn't even want to have a Zoom meeting because he doesn't want me to see him. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. And he's very personable when we talk and work together, but he has some social discomforts and just in problems, right? To
Mm-hmm.
overcome still. He loves doing them. I said, oh yeah, it's so cool. But they're just like all different things, I do. And so I'm out of the box totally and completely at this point in my life. I feel liberated that I'm writing screenplays, books. I produced 2 books of poetry, a children's book that I had memorized in my head when I was 19 on that trip with his family.
Mm-hmm.
When we went to Canada to Bay of Fundy, I wrote a children's story and I wrote it down and I never produced it till this year. I put it in a book and illustrated it. So I guess that's the other thing. It's never too late to have a great life and a really great childhood, a great adulthood. You just need to start over with a different set of things and take it one step at a time. But putting yourself first, your own emotional and social needs first. And then I didn't do that as well as I should, but now I do. And then building this business from the ground up by one good intention, one good action, at a time. And you're going to get a lot of supporters when you have a business like that. There's lots of businesses you can go to, but you'll go to that cafe because that woman is really nice, right? Or
Well,
you'll
and
go,
engaged, and
yes.
it's clearly important to you, and you've made a lot of sacrifices, but you also are very passionate about what you do for many reasons, and people can see that. They'll invest in something that the other person is really passionate about. It's a good place to put their money and
And
their time.
they'll trust you. When I was 35, they were handing their kids, these, 50, 55, 60-year-old people are handing their kids to me and Aspie undiagnosed and to take care of, but they could see that I had those values, that I was going to do the right thing. I was going to keep them informed, and that if I made a mistake, we would fix it and sort of guarantee our product. And so that's really, I think, why they trusted me to pay me the money they did to start CIP. That's why.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for sharing your experience, talking to us about flexibility, talking to us about your journey, and the things that you're doing right now. I mean, you're still on the journey, right? It's
Oh, definitely. I
an
have a lot of
incredible
things going on.
experience. I think you have probably inspired some people through this talk, and And you've really let people know that they can do this no matter how old they are, no matter what they've done in their life, where they are at that particular moment. Start there and maybe start a business, start thinking about a business. Thank you
Yeah,
so much for
I think
talking to us today. It's been an incredible experience for me. I appreciate your time today.